Good afternoon, everyone. In today's 14th emergency teach-in, we will be discussing the idiot topic, how to make an infitata at home and other dishes from the river to DC. We are joined by our experts, Sinan Antoon, our cultural landscape expert, Adel Iskandar, our media landscape expert, and Bassam Haddad, our social science expert. Welcome Adel and Sinan and myself to our regularly scheduled emergencies. On the Lord's Day, we sit down and we go over delectable recipes for disaster. Taking our cues from congressional hearings and sessions, we will be addressing what US lawmakers consider dangerous dishes, how to make them, and their geographic range. Certainly, infitata takes center stage as it is served anywhere you look between the river and Washington, D.C. We have a lot to share today, so fire up your stove and sit somewhere between the river and the sea. Let's take a look at what we will be discussing a lot today, which is our congressional hearing that is going to drive a lot of our discussions on this delectable journey.
Please, I personally find it unacceptable. We have sent a very clear message to.
What does it say about college campuses like Columbia's today that we're sitting here having a congressional hearing to discuss significant anti-Semitism prevalent to a large degree on campuses like yours and pro-terrorism sympathies on campuses like yours? How troubling is that to you? What does it say about our college campuses today that we're here doing this?
I am very troubled. There have been many pro-Israeli demonstrations on our
No,
campus.
that's not what I asked you.
But there have there have been many incidents.
The answer would be no, correct?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
There would be incidents.
To the board members, if I may.
And we immediately, as soon as we knew, notified the FBI. We brought in special investigators, and we
let me stop you there.
suspended the students
When did you
involved.
learn about this event was going to take place?
We learned on the day, and then we immediately contacted the FBI.
Were any safe spaces provided or other supportive measures created for students who might have felt threatened by the efforts to have this on campus, to have these speakers speaking remotely, at least on campus? Was there any measures taken for those students who might have felt threatened by this?
So we were one of the first universities to suspend Students for Justice in Palestine and the Jewish Voices
But they were
for
still
Peace.
able to hold an event.
I think that was a very powerful symbol to say if student groups don't abide by the rules, there will be consequences for them.
I'm sorry, with 8 seconds left, I'm going to have to stop you.
All right. Well, let's start our investigation with our cultural landscape expert, Sinan Antoon. Sinan, can you share with us how to make a frittata at home?
Thank you, Bassam. Let me say that I'm also very troubled. These are dangerous times, and citizens have to listen to their politicians and trust their judgment. You and Adel and everyone else can ridicule Congresswoman Lisa McClain all you want to, but introducing the infritata concept to the conversation has already opened new horizons for intellectual inquiry. When I heard her question, I felt hungry at first, but I went to the fridge and we had no eggs to make infritata, so I closed the fridge. But when I sat and thought about the Congresswoman's genius, I saw an opening and I began to grope my way through her philosophy. Her creative reconceptualization could change the future of food studies forever. It is a major paradigmatic shift. Food, we all know, encodes cultural and political history, and we have to protect our children from the violence of ethnic food and foreign cuisine. How to make sure the food you and your family consume does not incite violence and terror. And the biotics in your stomach have to meet congressional standards and approval. It's high time for resistance, my friends. Infritata is not as innocent and peaceful as you may think at first. See, infritata. Tata is the sound I often heard as a child in Iraq when we pretended to be shooting at someone. Ta, ta. The Congresswoman used two iterations, by the way, but she did that intentionally, I think. So there is Infitata, is an intifada directed at infants. The Congresswoman might have been hinting at something else also by coining a new word, Intifada plus Infitah, the open door policy of the Sadat regime in Egypt. She realizes the danger of a peaceful uprising combined with laissez-faire economics.
Welcome to my channel How to Pronounce. In this video, we are going to pronounce a new word. Let's get started.
Intifada. 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 Intifada.
عملت الانفتاح عملت الانفتاح هاجموني هاجموني في الانفتاح.
This is deep stuff about history and economics, and we can't just gloss over it. We have to think about it. Now let's turn to the president of Colombia. While she has been condemned by many for failing or seeming to be failing to defend academic freedom and ordering the arrest of her own students, there are reports that she could be actually a double agent for the Infitata. And once she gains the trust of the donors and the board of trustees, she will spearhead the Infitata herself. I mean, her first name is Manouchi. Manouchi, of course, is a beloved food item in Palestine and Greater Syria. She could be an infiltrator or an infiltratada. Tada. Food is dangerous, folks. And it is used and weaponized by anti-Semites to infiltrate our culture and society. I am terrified that it took us so long to realize that shawarma, for example, is a very dangerous food. Its very name incites war. Every time you buy one, you buy a shawarma or make a shawarma, you are calling for war. Do I need to spell it out for you? It's shawarma, right there in the middle. I grew up in that part of the world, and I know what our food stands for. Violence, we have to acknowledge that. Violence is at the heart of our cuisine. From the way mint, parsley, and cilantro are violently separated from loved ones, detained in horrible conditions, and then chopped up in an abhorrent and barbaric manner, violating all international norms and conventions, to the way baby chickpeas, innocent baby chickpeas, are crushed, or the way sheep, chicken, and goats every day, every minute, have their throats slit a la ISIS. And it's not merely the embodiment of violence and war, it's the rejection of peace and coexistence. I mean, falafel. The la, no, is right there in the middle. How the no sits right in the middle of the world, and it is obviously a reference to the three no's fourth summit of the Arab League in Khartoum, قمة اللاءات الثلاث, August 29th. Eating falafel, and by the way, please start saying falafel the right way with a light L, not falafel, like Larry, falafel. So eating falafel or even craving it means you are saying la, no to peace, and calling for the destruction not only of Israel, but our entire planet and our civilization. Unless you eat Israeli falafel, of course, that's different. There's always an exception. Same applies for labne, by the way. La, no. There is another dish that is dangerous, mansef. If you look it up, it's a noun of place and means the site of detonation or explosion. Nasafa yansifu mansef, the epitome of terror. The culture of terror has spilled over into our most beloved food items. Milkshakes, for example. Shake means زلزل. زلزل الأرض من تحت أقدامهم. a Quranic image often used in the statements of terrorists. So stop drinking milkshakes unless you want to kill children and bury them under the rubble. Stop listening to Casey and the Sunshine Band, because that song uses a double entendre, sheikh, zelzil, and the sheikh, leader of a terrorist cell. Tahini is another violent food. Tahini, the way Israelis say it, means shoot me. And the conniving Arabs tricked Israelis into stealing this food and claiming it as their own, only to make them all moving targets when they say tahini. And then we come to watermelon, which is by far the most dangerous example of how far the terrorists will go. Israeli archaeologists from the Center for Everything We Find is Proof That We Are Victims have discovered that a Hamas operative traveled back in time and genetically modified watermelons, which used to be blue and white, and changed their colors to reflect Palestinian nationalism and resistance. Shame, shame, shame. I can go on about croissants on flags and the dangerous head of the terrorist group Baba Ghanouj, but I think you get my drift. Thank you, Bassam. Thank you, Adel.
Thank you, Sinan, for your valuable comments. We will be continuing this conversation with myself at this point, the social science expert. Folks, spelled with an X, as we learned from the congressional hearings. The mask is off. They have figured out the strategy of Palestinian resistance. I'm here to deliver some bad news. After 75 years of dispossession, 56 years of military occupation and rule, decades upon decades of Israel building illegal Jewish-only settlements on Palestinian land, and as many decades of apartheid, Israel finally sees the one thing that could have helped Palestinians overcome their subjugation. Yes, absolutely yes, it is what you think it is. It is the Infitata. And here is the recipe, unfortunately, which was discovered by the mighty IDF. The ingredients of Infitata: 500 grams of apartheid, a dash of ethnic cleansing, sprinkles of home demolitions, handful of military occupation, scattered settlements, daily killing, Israel morality, a good dose of that, and genocidal juice as the finishing touch. Friends, let me just share with you a very small, short anecdote. Imagine walking down the street, minding your own business, just on your own, enjoying the day. Then suddenly, you see an Infitata right in front of you. How would you feel? Huh? It's one thing to see one Infitata. It's another to be confronted with a global Infitata. Of course, Infitata is not alone a dangerous dish. There are other ones. Mihshi Wara Tunnels, obviously. Kousa Ikht-Tak-Tic-Toc. Kibbeh Demolition. Settler Btintaki Fried Chicken. And of course, Riz Be'eri with Stuffed Apartheid. Who else could have discovered this truth but the brilliant connoisseur or connoisseurs, the members of Congress, with their worldly perspectives, with their larger-than-life attitudes about the other, with up-to-date understanding of the word diversity and its many facets and colors, its gorgeous mosaic of difference and of beauty. Before too long, let's take another look.
Does that training include comprehensive education about anti-Semitism, including the central role Israel plays in Judaism?
Thank you for that question. In the past, that was not the case, and that is something we are actively working on.
But is that taking place right now?
We have trained our student affairs staff across Columbia, but
I think time is of the essence, and I hope you will commit to getting that training in place immediately.
Yes.
We have seen chants at Columbia calling to globalize the Intifada, and much worse. Are calls to globalize the Intifada acceptable at Columbia?
So
Just a yes or no answer, please.
I personally find it unacceptable. We have sent a very clear message to our community that that kind of language is unacceptable.
I certainly hope you will rectify that in your statements. Now, step one is to make sure that there is rigorous anti-Semitism training in your anti-discrimination course that all your students are supposed to take. Step two is having that same training for your faculty members. And step three is making sure that your Middle East Studies department does not foment anti-Semitism by teaching that Israel is illegitimate as a state and that Jews should be murdered to get rid of Israel. Is that a problem?
Do you condemn Professor Massad's statement, and has he faced any consequences for it?
Congressman, I do condemn his statement. I am appalled by what he said.
Any consequences?
He has been spoken to.
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 Any consequences?
He has been spoken to. And I think you could.
So support
of terrorism is acceptable if you're a Columbia professor?
Not at all. And I should say,
he's been spoken to.
I didn't get to fit.
I have your answer. President Shafiq.
I'm concerned.
You talk to him.
There are consequences. No, we take them out of the classroom if necessary.
Is he out of the classroom?
From leadership. We allow students to leave those classes if they feel at all uncomfortable.
Is he out of the classroom?
What are the consequences for anti-Semitic behavior?
Yes. So once we know of an incident, we have investigative capacity. We've invested hugely in expanding that investigative capacity.
Okay.
And depending on the nature of the incident, there are consequences.
My question to you, are mobs shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, or long live the Infitata? Are those anti-Semitic comments?
When I hear those terms, I find them very upsetting. And I have heard...
That's a great answer to a question I didn't ask, so let me repeat the question. When mobs or people are shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine must be free, or long live the Infitata, 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 long live the Infitata. It's...
I hear them as such. Some people don't.
Long live the Infitata, long live the Infitata, long live the Infitata, long live the Infitata, long live the Infitata.
We have sent a clear message.
So is that yes?
We have sent a clear message to our community.
I'm not asking about the message. Yeah. Is that fall under definition of anti-Semitic behavior? Yes or no? Long live the Infitata, 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 long live the Infitata. Why is it so tough?
Because it's a difficult issue because
I realize it's a difficult
hear it
issue,
as anti-Semitic.
but here's
other
the
people
problem:
do not.
is when people can't. Long live the Infitata.
So
I'm asking a simple question. Maybe I should ask your task force. Does that qualify as anti-Semitic behavior, those statements? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Do you agree with your task force?
Moving on to Congresswoman Stefanik, we go back to continuing the congressional hearing.
Do you agree that this is an issue with a lack of enforcement?
Most of whom spend all of their time dedicated to teaching their students.
But I'm talking about the faculty members who are supporting terror. We know that there were decapitations of babies, of innocent Israeli citizens, of seniors, of women.
Faculty who make remarks that cross the line in terms of anti-Semitism, there will be consequences for them.
What are the consequences in this case? He was spoken to. Who spoke with him?
He was spoken to by his head of department and his dean.
And what was he told?
I was not in those conversations. I think.
But you're not aware what he was
that
told?
language
What
was
was he told?
unacceptable.
What was he told?
That language was unacceptable.
And were there any other enforcement actions taken? Any other disciplinary actions taken? Just to follow up, you should know this, President Shafiq, but Mossad is still in fact listed on the Columbia website as chair of the Academic Review Committee. Are you aware of that?
I would need to check that. I don't want to
it's the
misstate.
website's right
I don't want
here.
to misstate because
So he hasn't been removed as chair.
I would like to.
Do you have my
confirm that to
commitment
you.
he'll be removed as chair today?
I have my commitment that I will come back to you and give you the facts.
So he
first.
hasn't been removed. So you said in front of Congress under oath
No, I
that
said I am not sure.
he
I
was
need to check.
removed. Well, I'll tell you what,
need to
he's still listed on chair. Let me ask the Board of Trustees, is that acceptable that he's chair of this committee? Should he be removed today? Ms. Shipman.
We have worked tirelessly
My
to
question
attempt
to you, Ms. Shipman, and I'm the one asking the questions here as a United States member of Congress, is do you believe that he should be removed as chair? Because currently he's listed as chair on Columbia University's website. And just to let you know, Mr. Abdu is not grading papers right now. He's on campus at the unsanctioned anti-Israel, anti-Semitic event that is being supported by pro-Hamas activists on campus. So that's what Professor Abdu is doing at this very moment.
Our next congressman is very special. If you are an atheist, this next congressman will make you come back to Jesus whether you like it or not. Check it out.
As the oldest and most established democracy in the region, Israel exemplifies the core values of freedom and democracy. In fact, I tell my colleagues that Washington, D.C. is not the center of the universe. Jerusalem is the center of the universe. Are you familiar with Genesis 12:3?
Probably not as well as you are, Congressman.
Well, it's pretty clear. It was the covenant that God made with Abraham. And that covenant was real clear. If you bless Israel, I will bless you. If you curse Israel, I will curse you. And then in the New Testament, it was confirmed that all nations would be blessed through you. So you do not know about that. Do you consider that a serious issue? I mean, do you want Columbia University to be cursed by God of the Bible?
Definitely not.
Okay. Yet we also have Moses looking down on the entire body of Congress who gave us the law, which most of our laws were made and are supposed to be enforced, came from the original law. And what we have today is a lawless land. We have lawless universities that are overrun by people who are threatening to kill other students, who are attacking other students and creating fear in this country. And we have a constitution that requires us to treat other folks as we would like to be treated, which is also in the New Testament. I mean, maybe you should have a course, and you don't have to believe it, but maybe you should have a course suggested for those who are having problems with all of this on the Bible and what's in the Bible and kind of what will happen if, under the wrath of God. In God we trust. I mean, what God is that? Do you understand why we're here? This is a serious issue. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God.
يا عيني رقاصة وبترقص. ايوه. لا احنا مشاكين على الإضافة العظيمة دي يا سرحان. نورت المحكمة. ربنا يخليك، ربنا يخليك.
To those of us living in the United States, Alf Mabruk for these members of Congress. And now, without further ado, we move to our chef par excellence and our media landscape expert, the Honorable Adel Iskandar.
Thank you so much, Bassam. Thank you, Sinan. This is really extraordinary. Thank you so much for these really remarkable words. So, as we often say, as media scholars, we concern ourselves with depictions, representations, and portrayals. In this case, of phenomenal phenomena, using phenomenology to understand better phenommo. So, phenommo, that's the real question that we're asking here. There is comfort food, as we all know, your mac and cheese, your southern delicacies and things like that. And then there's food as a weapon of war. So much attention has been paid to the starvation of Palestinians through the denial of Gazans basic food, as we witness one of the gravest examples of human-made famine in modern times. But no one, literally no one, recognized the threat to Israelis and Zionists of Palestinians actually eating. Yeah. Sorry, Bassam. Yes, the gravest threat to Israel and Zionists, and the most anti-Semitic thing Palestinians and their supporters do on a daily basis is eat. Yeah. So, Congresswoman Lisa McClain brought this into sharp focus with her mention of the deliciously tantalizing, yet hate-filled and morally bankrupt Infitata. So, now, some said that Lisa McClain misspoke, with one Arab pundit photographed here exclaiming, ايه يا ليسا ايه يا ليسا البنت افتحيه على البتاع تحطيه يطلع فريتاتا يا ليسا. End quote. But today we confirm what Lisa McClain said wasn't erroneous. She just bit more in frittata than she could chew. I mean, one need not go far to witness the cruelty and genocidal intent of the frittata. Did you know how many unfertilized eggs need to go into a frittata? How many more unhatched chicks will be sacrificed before the world wakes up? Each infritata prepared is a squandering of so much life. It really amounts to infanticide, as Sinan described. But instead of mourning the tolls of these infritatas, people are unfairly distracted by the 4,000 Palestinian embryos destroyed by Israelis at Gaza's IVF clinic. Honestly, the double standards are absolutely outrageous. I don't know how to process this. Some might find this episode to be delectable, but I argue it is absolutely unsavory. During these times of rampant anti-Semitism, Columbia University students have not only committed the shockingly anti-Semitic crime of camping on campus, but also chanting the name of the genocidal dish infitata. Let me also note that during this encampment, not a single meal was ordered from the numerous local Zionist delis in the vicinity, and not a single package of sabra hummus was found on site when the NYPD cleared the premises. Shame. Shame. But the violent anti-Semitism goes far beyond infritatas at Columbia and extends to the kitchens around the world, where Palestinians and their allies eat and, God forbid, actually cook their anxiety-inducing foods. And what do they cook besides anti-Semitic food? Starting with مسخن, the Palestinian national dish. مسخن is a blatant anti-Semitic transgression, from its very name meaning to turn up the heat, to the violent drowning of bread in the olive oil, to the agonizing slow pain of lengthy roasting inflicted on the chicken. If that weren't enough to add insult to injury, the meal isn't complete without offensively abundant amounts of kusumak. Too much kusumak, it's intolerable. So that's the national dish. I don't know what to do with this. Then you've got the sambusak. When you have sambusak, you've got crispy pies in all of their shapes, stars like ninja stars whose pointed edges and ends are meant to inflict the greatest injury when thrown. The semilunar ones shown here have a boomerang effect that can cause harm to many before returning to their aggressor. And then, of course, they're the triangle-shaped ones, whose sharp edges are like a guillotine on a plate. And then, of course, we come to the kibbeh, or kubba. Honestly, that's a war crime on a plate itself. Kibbeh is quite simply a meat grenade, packed with enough ground beef to send your cholesterol off the charts. This IED, or improvised explosive delight, is homemade by tens of thousands of underground Hamas agents, seemingly innocent mothers and grandmothers, working under the shadow of night for hours to build an arsenal of these weapons of intestinal obstruction. Many of the homes destroyed by Israel in Gaza were said to have served as clandestine warehouses with stockpiles of kibbeh. And then we come to lentils. While Israel has been accused of using white phosphorus and condemned for this, no one is talking about the collective threat on the region posed by Palestinians' use of lentils. Lentils are the TNT of foods. Yeah. Few foods are capable of generating this much gas and bloating upon consumption because they are full of a special compound called raffinose. It's not only a violation of the nose, it is also an outright threat to extinction due to the amount of hydrogen and methane gases, both highly explosive as we all know, emitted into the atmosphere. If you're not killed, injured, or maimed by the combustible gas released by millions of Palestinians eating mujaddara, lentil salad, stews, and lentil soups, not to mention the 100 million Egyptians eating kushari next door, then you are among all the inhabitants on the earth slowly grilling away in an increasingly overheating planet where greenhouse gases from lentils trap heat in the upper atmosphere, bringing us all closer to extinction. And if that wasn't enough, you've got okra, the daily attrition. Okra, bamia, of course, with the prefix bam, an onomatopoeia obviously, signifies explosion, followed by jubilant ya, bam, ya. It is literally a celebration of death. And if it wasn't enough that it's always served soaked in a bloody tomato sauce, the vegetable itself is shaped like a bullet. Seriously, look at that. Understandably, each cartilage loaded with okra found in the aid destined for Gaza has been stopped and confiscated for fear of ending up in the hands of Hamas fighters. And then you've got mahshi. The most sus thing about Palestinian cuisine is mahshi, which just means stuffed in Arabic. Stuffed grape leaves, eggplant, zucchini, you name it, they stuff it. A culture of hiding and concealing every vegetable is a smuggling tunnel. It's not your average innocent zucchini. You have no idea what's in it. Like the hospitals and schools and homes and universities, everything is suspect and risk. So therefore it must be destroyed, as must be the mahshi. So don't tread anywhere near it. Then of course you've got maftool. Okay, where do we go from here? Maftool, also known as Israeli couscous, is anti-Semitic precisely because it refuses to accept its name change and its appropriation into Israeli cuisine. How dare Palestinians claim that this pearl-shaped wheat grain may have existed before 1948? What next? Assuming that Palestinians existed before 1948? Seriously. Not to mention that the name itself says it all. Maftool, which may come from the word fatil, the word fatil means the wick or the fuse of an explosive. So even the name itself is extremely life-threatening. Seriously, we're only just getting started. There's so much here. I don't know where to go. The 9 spices. The staple 7 spices of Middle Eastern and Levantine cuisines, already anti-Semitic for referencing the horrors of October 7th. But in Palestine, it's actually 9 buharat, or 9 spices. How much is too much? Seriously. And then, of course, you've got ma'moul. Ma'moul comes from the word amal, which is to make, but it also means a voodoo curse, a superstitious curse placed on someone. Look at the imprint, the incomprehensible designs on the ma'mouls that I'm showing here. Each one signifying horrific consequences for those who ingest it. And that's the ma'moul. And then you come to kibbeh. Kibbeh, really just eating raw meat. Where do I go from here? If this isn't as close to cannibalization as possible, I don't know what to say. And then you've got harissa. A semolina cake that means crushed and ground beyond recognition. The violence against the gentle and mild-mannered semolina, even listening to the name harissa and semolina, is pure barbarism. And then, of course, you've got, on the topic of grinding and destroying and decimating things, you've got du'a. Za'atar, of course, we all know, I don't need to cover that. But du'a, which is very common in Gaza specifically, means to pound it. Seriously, there are no euphemisms left to describe it. And then you've got falafel. Falafel is a composite word. As Sinan described, there's another interpretation and etymology for it. The fall and fill. Fill in Arabic means to jet or to disappear or to escape. So once you're down, you run. It is an edible mantra of guerrilla warfare. So you keep eating these falafels innocently, not knowing what you're contributing to and participating in. And then you've got tahini. Look at the tahini, seriously. Anyone who is able to milk the sesame seed enough to produce this viscous, thick, oily, saturated, gooey stuff, right, must be feared. Really, just unbelievable stuff. So, it's tough times. And then, of course, we've got ma'lube, the mushroom cloud-shaped cauliflower that sits atop the ma'luba, which is the flipping upside down of a dish filled with different things. I mean, really, this, if anything, represents the complete decimation and the complete overhaul of the status quo. It's ma'lube. And that is why, when we talk about the Infitata, we're just really, it was the tip of the iceberg. And then we've got frike. Frike is literally a freak show, an unknown, unclassified, and indescribable grain. The frike, actually, before anything is done to it, is smoky. Do you wonder where that smoke came from? What makes it so smoky? It is extremely suspect. And so proceed with caution with frike as well. And then you've got the muhammara, red, bloody colored dip, whose recipe is too grotesque to share on air. It may be delicious, but you must ask yourself where this comes from, where that comes from. It doesn't taste like red pepper as they claim it is. And finally, one of the main reasons why Gazans pose a unique threat to Israeli life is their access to the Mediterranean. Their access to the Mediterranean has them seafaring, and they rely heavily on seafood, especially fish. With Palestinians' expansive ambitions to annex and occupy their own land and shockingly demand jurisdiction over their own maritime waters, the next thing they will ask for is the right to fish off the coast of Gaza, which is utterly outrageous. I can only imagine where that will take us. But seriously, besides being a clear violation against Israel's right to colonize, when Palestinians ask one another, "Is this your fish?" Do you know what they say? When they ask themselves, "Is this your fish?" They say, antisemitic. Think about it. Antisemitic. Yeah. Antisemitic sounds like anti-Semitic. On Passover, no less. So at the heart of the actual food chain, from fishing all the way to the preparation of final meals, Palestinian cuisine, starting with the frittata onto fishing, contributes to anti-Semitism.
From the river to
I'm
the
so
sea.
sorry to reveal this to you. Please, everybody, stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Adel, for this remarkable illustration. With this, folks, we come, and of course, folks with an X. And if you don't know what that is, watch the congressional hearings, 3 hours and 15 minutes. I am very sad to hear all this news. But before we leave, I'd like to ask Sinan and Adel if you have any other final comments. Sinan?
What is there to say? No.
Adel.
There's nothing left.
I have a final comment, which I just realized because I realized things last minute, as usual. I'd like to share a few things, including the fact that if we are saying that saying from the river to the sea is racist, anti-Semitic, and genocidal, even if it is followed by Palestine will be free from occupation, free from apartheid, free from ethnic cleansing for everybody, still it is racist. Makes a lot of sense, actually. Now, if this is the case, are we saying that any party that says it is racist, anti-Semitic, and genocidal, if they say from the river to the sea? Of course they are. Calling for freedom for all is, of course, genocidal according to American members of Congress. But do you know to whom it doesn't mean that it's genocidal, anti-Semitic, and racist? To Israelis. Yeah. And the most hardcore kind, or among the most hardcore kind, because today, they're like competing. The Likud party. Let's take a look at what's on their website, lest we be unfair. Together, Mabad. The right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, in the Likud party, original party platform, 1977. The right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable and is linked with the right to security and peace for the Jewish people. Therefore, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, will not be handed to any foreign administration between the sea, which is the sea, from the river to the sea, and the Jordan, which is the Jordan River, from the river to the sea slogan. There will be only Israeli sovereignty. شو بعد بدنا? What else do we need?
Welcome to my channel How to Pronounce. In this video, we are going to pronounce a new word. Let's get started.
Intifada. Intifada.
All right, everybody. We have come to the end of this emergency teaching. We will have another emergency teaching in the coming weeks, which was going to be quite of an emergency on human shields, which we have discussed before is the brother of Brooke Shields. Before we go, we are going to give homage to Congresswoman McClain by chanting with her, "Long live the Infitata."
Long live the Infitata! 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 Long